File item number 24, AB 241. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 241 by Assemblymember Gordon, an act relating to local government.
Mr. Gordon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Assembly Bill 241 would give a voice to retired employees when there are local agency bankruptcy proceedings. In these unfortunate circumstances, interested parties such as creditors, bondholders, and current employees often work with a public agency to reorganize debt. However, unlike other creditors, individual retirees are not generally in a position to participate in these proceedings or organize to do so. To solve this problem, AB 241 would, under very specific and limited circumstances, require the public agency to provide retiree contact information to an organization established to advocate on behalf of the retiree's financial interests. This bill addresses a narrow circumstance where there is a practical need to share information for the organization of retired employees. The bill has no opposition and passed unanimously out of both the Local Government and the Privacy Committee. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Ms. Gordon. Seeing no discussion or debate on the item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 56, noes 11. Measure passes. File item 25 is pass and retain. Moving to file item 26, AB 1233. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1233 by Assemblymember Levine, an act relating to public works.
Members, please give Mr. Levine some room. Mr. Levine, you may open on the measure.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker and members. I'm pleased to present AB 1233. This bill would provide clarity in prevailing wage law by defining a de minimis public subsidy. Specifically, this bill defines a public subsidy as de minimis if it is both less than $250,000 and less than 2% of the total project cost. This allows a developer, if she or he chooses to seek or accept a public subsidy, to know if the Prevailing Wage Act will then apply to the project. Thank you very much.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 47, noes 24. The measure passes. Moving to file item 27, AB 1381, the clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1381 by Assemblymember Weber, an act relating to professions and vocations.
Dr. Weber, you may open.
Yes, Mr. Speaker and members, good afternoon. AB 1381 addresses the problem of property with renewable assets being undervalued by requiring real estate appraisers to obtain education and valuing sustainable real estate assets. I have amended the bill, thus removing all oppositions of the Bureau of Real Estate Appraisers, and I respectfully ask for an aye vote for AB 1381.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote. I'm sorry. Strike the roll. Mr. Jones, I understand your mic was up as I was calling for the roll. Mr. Jones, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and apologies to the body, but I do want to rise in support of AB 1381 and just thank the author for addressing the issues in business and professions and amending the bill to make it supportable. Thank you.
Now, seeing and hearing no further debate, Dr. Weber, would you like to close?
Yes, I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
The clerk will now open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 60, noes 7. Measure passes. Moving now to file item 28, AB 1494. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1494 by Assemblymember Levine and others, an act relating to voting.
Mr. Levine, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. AB 1494 seeks to uphold the First Amendment right of voters to engage in political speech. The bill expressly allows voters to photograph their marked ballot and share them via social media. This bill also provides protection against voter coercion, vote buying, disrupting a polling place, or impeding a voter's ability to vote. These behaviors are currently illegal under state law, and nothing in AB 1494 will change that. As this bill moves forward, I will be working with the Secretary of State on how to clarify the permissible use of technology in polling places. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Mr. Harper, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I urge this body to vote against this bill. Secret ballots exist to protect voters from coercion and bullying. When secrecy is violated, we set a dangerous precedent that allows the powerful to reward or target the people for voting in a certain way. I believe that we should work to increase civic engagement, but this bill is not the answer. This bill would also violate the California Constitution. Now, I know the California Constitution is long, it fills an entire book, but it's very clear on this subject. In Section 2, Article 2, Section 7 of the California Constitution, it has just 4 words. Voting shall be secret. It is not an ambiguous proposition. If we want voters to be able to post a picture of themselves or a selfie with a marked ballot, then we just simply need to amend the state constitution. Doing a bill simply doesn't cut it. If we want to change the Constitution of the state of California, that's what we should be proposing. This bill is an inappropriate way to even achieve the means by which the author wants to seek to change policy. I urge a no vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, Assemblymember Levine, you may close.
Thank you, members. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
The clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll and tally the votes. Ayes 45, noes 18. The measure passes. We are going to pass temporarily our Speaker Pro Tem's item at file item 29 and move to file item 30, AB 508. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 508 by Assemblymember Cristina Garcia, an act relating to public health.
Assemblymember Garcia, you may open.
Mr. Speaker and members, I rise today in support of AB 508. AB 508 would require the Department of Public Health to prepare and publish an annual report on California's maternal mortality and morbidity. We salute the Department of Public Health for their efforts in addressing maternal and infant death, health issues, and wish to support these efforts further. California should be a leader in positive maternal outcomes. This bill has received bipartisan support in both policy and fiscal committees. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 68, noes 0. Measure passes. File item 31, AB 598. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 598 by Assemblymember Calderon and others, an act relating to child care.
Mr. Calderon, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. AB 598 creates consistency in law and outlines expectations for contracting agencies and providers in family child care home education networks. Accessing affordable child care is critical for working families in California. Family child care home provide child care during non-traditional hours, including weekends and rotating shifts. Existing law lacks consistent administration and implementation of family child care homes, which makes ensuring a high quality of care difficult. AB 598 codifies Department of Education existing care network requirements to provide greater consistency and quality service to some of California's most vulnerable populations, families, and their children. AB 598 comes to the floor having received unanimous bipartisan support in both the Human Services and Appropriations Committee. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll and tally the votes. Ayes 71, no 0. Measure passes. We're going to pass and retain file item 32, file item 33, AB 885. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 885 by Assemblymember Lopez, an act relating to foster youth.
Ms. Lopez, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Today I place to present AB 85. AB 85 looks to help former foster youth who have suffered the loss of their guardian has stopped to caring for them and then become a legal adult. This bill ensures that all the former foster youth between age 18 and 21 are available to re-enter in the foster care system, and their permanent relationship has been disrupted. this bill receiving bipartisan support and asking respectfully for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 74, no 0. Measure passes. File item 34, AB 59. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 59 by Assemblymember Waldron and others, an act relating to mental health services, making appropriation therefore.
Ms. Waldron, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. AB 59 will simply extend the sunset date for assisted outpatient treatment statutes for an additional 5 years. This bill continues the authorization of court-ordered assisted outpatient treatment for those individuals that are mentally ill. Assisted outpatient treatment increases treatment adherence, such as medication, and is proven to keep those individuals out of crowded emergency rooms. Currently, Laura's Law has implemented in Nevada, Contra Costa, Orange, Mendocino, Placer, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Yolo County, with San Diego recently passing a resolution. It has bipartisan support and has passed Assembly Health and Judiciary and Appropriations Committee, and I urge your aye vote. Thank you.
That's it. Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll and tally the votes. Ayes 71, no 0. Measure passes. We're going to pass temporarily file item 35. File items 36 through 38, we're going to pass and retain. Moving now to file item 39, AB 26. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 26 by Assemblymember Jones Sawyer and others, an act relating to medical cannabis.
Mr. Jones Sawyer, you're recognized.
Good afternoon, Speaker and colleagues. Today I am presenting AB 26. AB 26 will require that anyone who is applying to obtain a license to cultivate, distribute, disperse, or manufacture medical marijuana have an agent and employee training certification program. This bill is very simple about consumer and workplace safety. The need for AB 26 comes from an unresolved issue following the signing of the trio of bills, AB 266, AB 243, and SB 643, which created the Medical Marijuana Regulation and Safety Act in 2015. At the time, there was no agreement on how to best handle the training of workers who deal with ill patients or cultivate and process the products for consumption. Medical cannabis workers need the vital knowledge of their product and how best to serve the needs of people suffering from serious illnesses. Whether they are working with patients in the dispensary, cultivating at farms, or assisting in the manufacturing and processing, these workers and the public need to know they are educated in the best possible health, safety, and security standards set by the state. Thank you. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Ms. Bonilla, you're recognized.
I rise in strong support of this bill. I think that as we move forward with the full implementation around medical marijuana use, this bill is very significant as it addresses the issue of training when we think of consumer protection and the medical needs of the community that is accessing medical marijuana. The training of the employees is critically important. I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, Mr. Jones Sawyer, would you like to close?
I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
The clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll. Tally the votes. Ayes 59, no 0. Measure passes. Going now to file item 40, AB 1300. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1300 by Assemblymember Ridley Thomas, an act relating to mental health.
Mr. Ridley Thomas.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, I rise to present AB 1300. This bill requires that hospitals not designated by counties and mental health treatment facilities notify the county when involuntarily detained persons, those who are under 5150 holds, arrive at their emergency departments. We know that this practice has resulted in delays, and it leaves patients languishing for hours and sometimes weeks awaiting psychiatric assessment and treatment. This bill is intended to resolve the communication gap between non-designated hospitals and community health departments. I will respectfully request an aye vote, Mr. Speaker.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 73, no 0. Measure passes. File item 41. The clerk will read AB 501.
Assembly Rule 501 by Assemblymember Levine, and Act related to resources.
Mr. Levine, you may open.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker and members. This bill requires state-funded research in the Delta be made available to the Delta Science Program. This bill has a simple premise that what we learn about the Delta from taxpayer-supported research should be available to the public. Our ability to manage our resources appropriately hinges on having the best available scientific information. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 69, noes 1. The measure passes. We're going to pass and retain file items 42 and 43. We're going to go now back to file item 29, AB 45. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 45 by Assemblymember Mullen, and Act relating to hazardous waste.
Mr. Mullen, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Household hazardous wastes are products that individuals use in their daily lives that contain potentially hazardous ingredients. These products require special care when disposed of, but more often than not, consumers may not have the most convenient mechanisms to do so. It is illegal to dispose of household hazardous waste in the trash, down the drain, or by abandonment. However, people may not know the hazardous effects of these products on human health, animals, and the environment. So what does all this mean? Either out of lack of awareness or temptation, it is all too easy to throw batteries, pills, sharps, CFLs, or other HHW products into the garbage. Data from Cal Recycle indicates that only 7% of Californians dispose of household hazardous waste products properly. This paltry participation rate shows how much improvement the state can make in the future. AB 45 aims to coordinate with local governments, producers of household hazardous waste products, and Cal Recycle to adopt model ordinances for a comprehensive program for the collection of household hazardous waste. I have listened very closely to the opposition since this bill was in Appropriations Committee last year. I believe the amendments taken in committee are steps in the right direction to address concerns. Local governments have the option to choose whether or not to use model ordinances listed by Cal Recycle. And Cal Recycle will determine whether or not an appropriate nonprofit organization has been created by industry, which will include $5 million for grants to local governments to augment their household hazardous waste program. The collection of HHW has been an ongoing problem for the past 15 to 20 years. Now is the time to change the culture of piecemeal approaches and the way we think about finding effective, comprehensive solutions to properly dispose of household hazardous waste. I have always been clear about my perspective on a shared responsibility on the disposal of household hazardous waste products. Like local governments, manufacturers play a vital role in the success of comprehensive solutions to dispose of household hazardous waste as listed in the bill. Members, there are multiple schools of thought on this issue of household hazardous waste, extended producer responsibility, other forms of local government involvement. All ideas have merits that I've heard. However, we are trying to thread the needle, members, on this one. We have not been able to find a solution on this floor for this paltry participation rate. And my staff and I have continued to work this issue. We are bringing industry to the table. For the first time ever in this building, there is actual money from industry on the table to solve this problem. I ask that we pass this bill off the floor so I can continue to work this in the Senate so we can find a solution once and for all for household hazardous waste. I ask for an aye vote.
Ms. Waldron, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I served on a solid waste board in San Diego for 9 years, and I agree with the author that this is an issue that we need to continue to work on. One of the problems, because people trying to get to a location to drop off their household hazardous waste, the inconvenience of it has been the biggest problem. So what happens is someone might go, they may not have an appointment, maybe their driver's license doesn't match the pickup location that they cover. So what do? They end up driving away and dumping it in the field or dumping it in the stream, especially pharmaceuticals, ending up in the waterway. So I think this is an important issue, and we can continue to work on it, and I support the bill, and I urge an aye vote.
Mr. Gallagher, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, members, I must rise in opposition to this bill. I agree that this is a serious issue and it's something we need to continue to work on, but this is not the right way to approach it. Right now already, local jurisdictions have to adopt a hazardous household waste element and submit it to CalRecycle. So when all of our locals are already doing this and already developing their own elements that meet the needs and concerns of their local jurisdictions, why do we need to develop a one-size-fits-all model ordinance that I think ultimately will be used and applied across the board instead of giving locals flexibility in how they deal with this issue? There also isn't a clear path here as to how industry would play a part in this, which we all know the whole burden of household hazardous waste should not fall on local governments and local waste authorities and the taxpayers who support those local governments and waste authorities. There's just not a clear enough path here. I don't think it's been really worked out well enough for us to move this forward, and I would urge your no vote. And I would urge you to also look in and talk to your own local waste authorities and county governments who ultimately, I think, if we take this path, will foot the bill for doing this, and their taxpayers will foot the bill for doing this when they are really not the cause of household hazardous waste and that issue. So I would urge you to be very cautious in how we approach this. I think we can come up with a much more comprehensive and better solution to this issue. Thank you.
Mr. Gomez, you're recognized.
I rise in support of AB 45. The gentleman from Daly City has been working on this bill very hard. He also had a lot of concerns regarding, requiring and forcing local municipalities to adopt this ordinance. This is a permissive ordinance, and it allows him to continue moving the bill forward, to continue the discussion. So we've discussed the question, should it be a may or should it be a shall? And we chose that it should be a may. So that's why you're not seeing folks in opposition to this bill as it stands, because they know that it's still a work in progress. We want to make sure that they have an opportunity to see if there can be an agreement on this, and hopefully in the end really take care of a problem, because right now the rates of recycling the hazardous waste is not very high. So I commend the author, and I hope you guys vote aye for the bill. Thank you.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, Mr. Mullen, you may close.
Thank you, members, for the discussion, and thank you to all of the interests who've been participating in an ongoing conversation, a conversation I hope that we will continue in the Senate. This is not a one-size-fits-all, members. County options still exist. We would encourage members to look at this model ordinance through CalRecycle and their oversight. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
This time, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 47, noes 18. Measure passes. Colleagues, we're going to pass and retain file item 35.
She's good. Gonzalez is good.
Okay.
Just the call.
That's where I messed with. And colleagues, we have one item on call. It is file item 17.
You're right.
And I'm lifting the call on file item 17. The clerk will post. All members vote who desire to vote. 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 The clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 41, noes 30. Measure passes. We're going to go back to housekeeping items. To our Majority Leader. Actually, at this time, while Mr. Holden's in the back, we're going to go to the consent calendar. Does any member wish to remove an item from the consent calendar? Seeing and hearing none, the clerk will read the second-day consent calendar.
Assembly Bill 54 by Assemblymember Olson and others, an act relating to disability access.
The clerk will open the roll on the consent calendar. All vote who desire to vote. All vote who desire to vote. All vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll and tally the votes. Ayes 71, no 0. Consent calendar is adopted. The clerk will read the remaining bills on the second-day consent calendar.
Assembly Bill 168.
Ayes 71, no 0.
Assembly Bill 735.
Ayes 71, no 0.
Assembly Bill 898.
Ayes 71, no 0.
Assembly Bill 923.
Ayes 71, no 0.
Assembly Bill 1001.
Ayes 71, no 0.
Assembly Bill 1067.
Ayes 71, no 0.
Assembly Bill 1084.
Ayes 71, no 0.
Assembly Bill 1115.
Ayes 71, no 0.
Assembly Bill 1174.
Ayes 71, no 0.
Assembly Bill 1311 with urgency.
Ayes 71, no 0. On the urgency, ayes 71, no 0 on the underlying bill.
Assembly Bill 1364.
Ayes 71, no 0.
Assembly Bill 1386.
Ayes 71, no 0.
Assembly Bill 1399.
Ayes 71, no 0.
Assembly Bill 1549.
Ayes 71, no 0.
Assembly Concurrent Resolution 98.
Ayes 71, no 0.
Assembly Concurrent Resolution 104.
Ayes 71, no 0.
Assembly Concurrent Resolution 107.
Ayes 71, no 0.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 45.
Ayes 71, no 0.
And Senate Concurrent Resolution 51.
Ayes 71, no 0. And at this time, I'd like to recognize the Majority Leader for housekeeping matter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request unanimous consent to suspend Assembly Rule 45.5 and allow Assemblymember Brown to also speak on adjourn in memory today.
Without objection, that request is granted. We're now going to move to announcements and adjournments in memory. A number of members were granted prior permission to speak on an adjourn in memory. Colleagues, I'd like to ask if you could please take your seats and keep conversations to a minimum during our adjournment. If I could ask folks to please take their seats. And at this time, I'd like to recognize Mr. Dodd for the first adjourn. Mr. Dodd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I ask you today to join me in remembering and celebrating the life of Jay Corley. Jay Corley passed away at 86 years old. For much of his life, he was a Napa Valley standard bearer and had a wonderful sense of humor and would light up a room with his smile and wit. In 1981, after more than a decade of growing and selling his grapes to other wineries, he built the winery at Monticello Vineyards and began to produce his own estate-grown wines. Jay took great pride that the winery he founded has entered its second generation, with the third generation showing early interest in the family wine business. Jay was passionate about the preservation of agriculture. So passionate, he was one of the pioneers that led to the formation of Napa County's Agricultural Preserve. Jay nurtured a strong sense of civic duty and served on many boards and foundations, including the Queen of the Valley Hospital and the Napa Valley Planning Commission. He served as chairman of the Napa Valley Wine Auction, served on the Napa Valley Grand Jury, and was a longtime and active member of Napa Rotary. Jay is survived by his wife, Joan Corley, brothers Todd Corley and Paul Corley, his 6 sons, Kevin, Kent, Mark, Michael, Stephen, Chris, and his daughter Carolyn and their families, 12 grandchildren, extended family, loved ones, and countless others whose lives he touched. Our thoughts and prayers are with Jay and his loved ones. I ask you to adjourn in the memory of Jay Corley. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Dodd. Our next adjourn in memory will be presented by Mr. Steinorth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to adjourn in memory of Mr. Harold Went Willis, Sr., who passed away at his home in Redlands on Sunday, January 17th at the age of 88. Mr. Willis was beloved husband of Major Ophelia Alvarez Willis, M.D., who is an appointee of Governor Brown to the California Commission on the Status of Women and Girls. Mr. Willis was a veteran who served in the Pacific Theater during World War II as a radio communication officer for the U.S. Merchant Marines. Ensign Willis returned from the war to the family dairy business, Victoria Guernsey, which was once the largest dairy in post-World War II San Bernardino County. Mr. Willis and his father innovated much of the state's modern dairy industry. Harold served as state president of the California Dairy Industries Association and went on to create 31 other small businesses, all based in the Inland Empire. Harold was also committed to public and community service, serving as San Bernardino City Water Commissioner for more than 3 decades and president of the Board of Water Commissioners. A lifetime member of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, Mr. Willis served on the Board of Chancellors and as president at Loma Linda University and as deacon at the San Bernardino Seventh-day Adventist Church. Please join me to express our condolences to Commissioner Alvarez Willis, as well as all of his family members and many friends in his church and community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Steinhardt. I'd like to recognize Ms. Irwin.
I join my colleague in requesting that today we adjourn in the memory of Harold Went Willis, Sr. Harold Willis and his wife, Major Ophelia Alvarez Willis, have made very many significant and lasting contributions to their community and our state. Mr. Willis was a World War II veteran who embraced California's entrepreneurial spirit and opportunities, creating many successful businesses in the Inland Empire. His faith led him to the leadership at Loma Linda University and his church. A strong believer in citizen participation in government, Mr. Willis served as a member of the San Bernardino Water Commission for more than 30 years and was a role model to many. He was very proud of his wife's continuing leadership. Major Alvarez Willis is a physician who cared for California veterans for over 3 decades and serves on the California Commission on the Status of Women and Girls on behalf of our state's women veterans. We extend our deepest sympathy to his wife, his family, and his many friends.
Thank you, Ms. Irwin. I'd like to now recognize Mr. Thurman for his adjourn in memory.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I rise to adjourn in memory of Sylvia McLaughlin, who passed away on January 19th at the age of 99. She is a resident from Berkeley who is largely known for being a pioneer in environmentalism and is the co-founder of an organization called Save the Bay. Many of you know this organization. It is considered to be the largest regional organization committed to coastal restoration and habitat preservation, wetlands, stopping bay fill. We use the word champion all the time. Her accomplishments are so much bigger than that word. She was a fierce environmental leader. She served on boards such as the National Audubon Society and the Citizens for East Shore Parks, Save the Redwoods League, the Trust for Public Lands, the Greenbelt Alliance, and the East Bay Conservation Corps. She's credited with being the one responsible for the creation of what was then a new state agency, the Bay Conservation and Development Commission, BCDC, as we call it, which we know regulates shoreline development and the issues of infilling. In 2012, the state of California named a park after her, one of the areas that she worked to save that was public shoreline. It stretches from Oakland to Richmond, and it's called the McLaughlin East Shore State Park. And when you visit our district and you see this pristine and beautiful shoreline with recreation areas for everyone to enjoy, we have Sylvia McLaughlin to thank for her advocacy for creating this beautiful area. In her lifetime, her advocacy can be seen in the Bay's beautiful shoreline and a powerful movement that she helped to nurture. She was an environmentalist for 50 years before there was even ever such a thing called an environmental movement. We want to thank Sylvia McLaughlin for her stewardship, her tireless work to protect natural resources of our region and our planet. Our hearts and prayers go out to her family. She is survived by her children, Jeannie and George, her stepson Donald, 4 grandchildren, and 6 step-grandchildren. We ask that we adjourn in the memory of Sylvia McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mr. Thurman. Our final adjourn in memory will be by Assemblymember Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I rise to adjourn in the memory of Dorothy Pryor Rose. She's known in our community as Mommy Helen. She passed away on Sunday, January the 17th, and she was 69 years old. A San Bernardino native, Miss Pryor Rose was the founder of the original Mommy Helen's Bakery. And it's a favorite of many locals and celebrities, and she was known for these amazing pies, her mother's secret recipe. Some of Mommy Helen's famous customers included Oprah and Shaquille O'Neal, and they would order pies from her. As a matter of fact, Shaquille ordered 250 peach cobblers for his wedding. And at the funeral yesterday, Marcus Allen represented all of the football stars that she fed. Dorothy Pryor Rose was born in San Bernardino in 1946 and graduated from my alma mater, San Bernardino High School, in 1965. She started working at Pac Bell Company in 1969 and worked there for 31 years. In 2000, she opened her family-run bakery in Colton, California. She outgrew 2 locations before returning back to her birthplace, San Bernardino. Dorothy was a devout Christian. She was a job creator, an entrepreneur, and a local icon. Last year, the business was named the Business of the Year for the 47th Assembly District, and she was proud to stand in front of this chamber and take a picture with her name up on the board up there. She leaves behind her husband, Bobby Rose, her daughters, Takesha Pryor and Tedra Rose, her sister, Ruby Williams, her grandson, Darius, Dion, and a host of relatives and friends. I ask that this House adjourn in memory of Dorothy Pryor Rose. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, please bring the names to the desk to be printed in the journal. Our requests to adjourn in memory will be deemed read and printed in the journal. Moving now to announcements. Scheduled session is as follows. Tomorrow, Thursday, January the 28th, floor session at 9 a.m. Friday, January the 29th, no floor session, no check-in session. All other items remaining will be passed and retained. All motions continued. Seeing and hearing no further business, I'm ready to entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Holden moves and Ms. Waldron seconds that this House stands adjourned until tomorrow, Thursday, January the 28th at 9 a.m. Quorum call is lifted.